Today is going to be about Strongall, the Strongall method of construction. We want to talk about the difference in between the construction of our boat and a regular framed aluminum boat.
Well, if you're new to our channel, you might not know that while Meta Boat Yard builds the hull of our new boat, we will be converting a cargo van into our home on wheels to live on it while we finish the building of our boat ourselves. As the title of this video says, today we are gonna talk about how the structure of our new boat is gonna be built in order to make it stronger, faster to build, and cheaper. But first, there is something that we wanna show you quickly. After weeks watching Duca build his tiny workshop, I think you deserve to see the final assembling of the working bench. And after that, we are gonna take you to Meta Boat Yard. We are finally ready to finish this table!
Yeah, it's been way too long.
As you can tell, Duca decided to bolt the legs instead of gluing it like the rest of the structure of the bench. The reason for that is because, as we mentioned on a previous episode, we will need to change location when the hull of the boat is ready. In this way, we can disassemble part of the bench to be able to move it. And this will make our lives so much easier.
Are you ready? Yes. We decided that the last steps of the workshop we are not gonna film because you're probably tired of seeing me working on the workshop, and we have a lot of other things to do. So if we don't film, we can make progress much quicker and we can start the rest. So check this out. Come with me. Every time I come to work now, all I need to do is to take the table saw out, and with the table saw out, my office is ready. What do you think? Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
Not to say that it's 100% ready. There's one tiny thing that's gonna be, I don't know, 15 minutes and we can finish the workshop. We were waiting for this to arrive so we can do the last step. So the bench is all ready with the vise. A lot of people commented we should have a vise. Yes, of course, was the plan since day one. So we have a vise already with soft wood so we can put hardwood here and work and not damage the wood. We have everything, but I'm not gonna give you a full tour of the shop yet. First of all, I'm gonna open this because it's a final time to create some vertical holes. So the problem is, in order for this to work properly, the hole on the bench that's 22 millimeters thick needs to be vertical, otherwise it's not going to work properly, and it's really hard to do a hole 90 degrees, 100% 90 degrees by hand. I cannot guarantee that I can do that, so we have this tool that with a simple drill, that's the cheapest drill you could find just for the job, that's 20 bucks. We can literally have the drill 100% 90 degrees with the desk, and then we can guarantee that the hole is right. We wish we could have used this one to do the legs. It didn't arrive in time. Originally my idea was to use this kind of drill in order to have a clean hole, but unfortunately it's too short, the only one we have, so we will need to use this kind that is not exactly what I wanted, but it is what it is. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. We are gonna finish the workshop today. That's it. Tomorrow we need to start working on the van, and we have big plans for tomorrow on the van, so we need to finish this today, and we're gonna finish this today. So we're gonna do it with what we have. The idea is that with this jig, I can literally guarantee that the drill is 90 degrees to the bench. And I also put this little screw in a way that it's not gonna go all the way back up, so I don't have a lot of work. And also this other screw is to limit the depth of the hole. So when I put down, it's gonna go exactly the depth I need. So it won't go more than I need, and it will work perfectly. This usually you can clamp to the table or you can bolt to the table. Right now I cannot do that because I don't have the holes that I want to do it. Once I have the holes, when I need to do this in other things, I can clamp this jig to the holes I'm gonna create right now, use a clamp, hold in place, and then we have something that's really stable, but it's really heavy, so it's gonna hold itself really well, I guess. And now I just need to try, I guess. If you wanna know more about this jig, you can go to famag.com. They have a lot of good products. Also, the drill used for this thick wood for the bench was also made by them, and it was a really good drill. So now just
you have the marks.
Oh, by the way, yeah, I did yesterday off camera. I have all the marks. I have one hole here, one here. It's just 6 or 8 holes, I guess. But I have all the marks already just so I can speed things up. It's better than I thought. Now, that we have this hole, that means that we can get this clamp, we can go through the hole, and then if we have a piece of wood, I'm gonna work on this piece of wood, I'll just put here, and now it's in place. Now I need to replicate the same thing in other places of the desk because I never know where I need a clamp, so I need to have like a few different holes in different locations in order to be able to clamp wherever I want to clamp on the bench. That's it! Now we're done. I finished the workshop. I'm sorry for taking that long, but that it takes how long as it takes.
Can you film me? I have something to say.
What do you want to say?
Finally!
It's always been a dream of mine to have a tiny workshop that I can have things organized, because if you have ever built something and you don't have an organized place, you know that it becomes tricky. You lose things, you don't find the tool when you need. It's
Waste
just
time.
a lot more complicated. And before I give you a 1.5 minute tour of the workshop, because it's a tiny workshop and because we need to work on the van, I just want to take a second to thank all our patrons for supporting us and for making it possible for us to do that. That's our dream, to have a tiny, that's awesome, we really like. And also I want to thank the sponsors for the workshop. These, we can put here, these guys. Without them, we would not have tools, we would not have equipment on the workshop. So now, let's do the tour. Where do we start?
Here.
Here. So here is, I don't know, how do I call that? My measurement wall. So I have different kinds of square, 3 different kinds of square. I have my ruler, a mallet, accessories for the table saw, and pretty much that's it. The vacuum is gonna sit here, I'm pretty sure, with the garbage bag. That's the place already. Here are some supports for the clamps, so I need a place to just leave them.
And the camera mount.
And the camera mount. So now we can have time lapses just hanging from here. That's the phone mount. And coming this
And
way,
we have the fire extinguisher as well.
a fire extinguisher is right on the door, so we have it. Coming this way, we have our wood storage. That's awesome. Finally, I have the wood organized and in a way that's not going to be warped. I have a base, that's a MDF base with an MDF back, so it's straight and flat and with not too much angle, enough to hold itself, but not enough to warp the MDF. Here is the stock of the wood for the floor, the ceiling and the bench of the van. That's a Peli mahogany. The track for the track saw. Sometimes you need a reference of a straight edge. We know if something is roughly flat, like the workshop bench. Clamp wall. That's always dreaming of a clamp wall. So long clamps, shorter one, tiny ones, painting mask, 90 degrees jig to assemble drawers and stuff. Tiny clamps. Another kind of tiny clamps.
I think they can see everything.
You can see everything. So these are all accessories from Pihe. Pihe, thanks so much. The amount of clamps they send us is unbelievable, and it makes our life so much easier. And on the boat, they're gonna be so useful. Coming this way, we have, this is the tool that you just saw us using. I'm gonna leave the drill and the jigsaw there. I think it's good, easy to see. Here is a fan that can either bring air in or out. I can choose, it's just in, out,
First time I think this working.
off. Here of course is the Sika cabinet. That's just a dream. Duca have a Sika cabinet. That's just mind-blowing. Yeah, so I try to organize my Sika cabinet in a way that I know exactly where is each one of the Sikas. So that's 5-2, that is more like a use for everything on RV purpose Sika Flex. That's the white one, that's the black one. Here are all the primers and activators and the cleaner on the back. 5-2 black. This is 714, so it's a Sika Butilic Sika. Yeah, so this one we're gonna use for all the windows and hatches on the van. That's the 529 that we're gonna use on the bottom of the van. Hand wipe from Sika. Awesome. I don't need any more because I'm a professional now, I don't get my hands dirty. Here are all the nozzles, and on the back, that's the structure one that we're gonna glue the solar panels on the top of the van. We have my chisels. Finally, I have some good chisels. My dream tools. Here is my hand plane cabinet, so it's the number 4, and also a tiny block plane just to do the finishings on the small end grains and stuff. Here is my screw cabinet, pocket hole jig. This is the jig for the hinges, so we can do the cabinetry on the van and on the boat. Coming this way, we have this nice vise. Here are just random things, like this thing that I bought this week. That's really awesome. So you can have a drill and make it at 90 degrees, so you can get to small, tiny spaces. Here's our shore power to make sure we're safe. We have a breaker inside, so if we leave everything on overnight and something goes wrong, it's just gonna trip the breaker, so that's safety. And when we come every day, we just turn this on and everything's on. This is the new addition to the family. Now we have a miter saw that we can have any long piece of wood laying on the top of the bench. It's built in a way that the bench is just a tiny little hair thickness lower than the miter saw, so that means it won't affect the 90 degrees angle on the cut. Everything is on wheels, so whenever we want to use the thickener planer that's right next to it, we can take outside or we can use outside. This miter saw also have wheels, so I can just slide and use outside whenever I want to use outside, or if I want to use inside, I can use inside, it's fine. On the bottom, we have a lot of storage space. We just need to organize this mess. We have some wood storage on the back, some paint there, and we also have a compressor here. The compressor is really good for painting and good for cleaning things. And I think that's it. We made it to the end. Is that the end?
I think so.
It was that 1 minute?
No, 1 minute's just this last part.
I said I was gonna do it in 1 minute. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, life is life.
You're gonna see more details about this workshop once we start working inside.
Yeah.
To build things for the van.
It's more fun to see in a natural way. That means using it. Because now we need to start working on the van, and that's going to be awesome because this week we're going to start building the walls. We're going to do the framing for the walls because a lot of other things we want to do rely on having the framing in place.
I thought it was a surprise.
Oh, it was a surprise? See you tomorrow.
The good thing about living on the same town as the boatyard is that we can come to see our boat.
Yeah, we just came to pay a visit to our future boat right there. Yeah, you saw that already on a past video. The reason why we're here actually is because Friday the boatyard doesn't work, and that means we can shoot an explanation video with less noise. And we want to talk about the difference in between the construction of our boat and a regular framed aluminum boat. Today is going to be about Strongall, the Strongall method of construction. So Strongall is a method of construction that Meta Boatyard patented in 1977, if I'm not wrong. And this method of construction is probably the main reason why we chose to work with Meta, because our old boat was built in a Strongall method, and for me it makes total sense. So let's try to explain the difference.
By the way, they still didn't start our boat because they need a space to work around and to weld it, so next week.
So back to the Strongall, there is a few differences on how you build a Strongall boat and how you build a normal frame boat. So the reason why we wanted to come here today is because we have two samples of boats. This is a Strongall boat that is starting to be built, and there is also this other boat that is built in the traditional way with frames and stringers and thinner plates. So come on.
Our first time coming inside this boat.
So this boat wasn't designed by Meta, it's been built by Meta, but was designed by this designer. And it's an exploration research boat. Come inside, let's go for the first time together because I've never been inside yet. We always see from outside, but not inside.
I'm always curious to come inside, but they are always working, so this is the first time.
This is a framed traditional aluminum boat. So the first component is the frame. This is a frame. So a frame is a structural support that is transversal to the center line of the boat. The second component is the stringer. So the stringer are these longitudinal supports, longitudinal reinforcements that you connect to the frame. And with these two components, you have the skeleton of the boat that usually you do it upside down to make it easier. And then there is the third component that is the plate of the boat. The plate of the boat in this method of construction doesn't need to be really thick because the whole structure of frame and stringer already make it strong. So that means the thin plate is pretty much what you seal the boat with, what you make it watertight and becomes a boat. Let's just show you in detail a little bit of this, and then I'm going to show you a Strongall boat. So now let's talk about the Strongall method. I don't know if you can see, but right next to me there is a boat is starting to be built on the Strongall method. As you can tell, this boat has no frames yet here, and the boat is not upside down. That's already a big difference. There's a lot more than that, but that's the beginning. The first step to build a Strongall method, instead of building the frames, is to actually get the plates of the boat on the right dimension and on the right form and weld them together to create the form of the boat, the shape of the boat. That's the stage they are right now. These are the two bottom plates of a 52-foot Strongall boat. So you might be wondering, isn't it easier to just build frames and then have stringers and then just get the plates around? Isn't that easier to maintain the shape of the boat? Not necessarily. The truth is, when you have a framed boat, the thickness of the plates are much thinner, and a thinner plate means more deformation. When you work with really thick aluminum plates, you have a lot less deformation, and that makes much easier to keep the right shape of the boat. So this, for example, is a plate from a 52-foot Strongall hull. It's thicker than my finger almost. So this, I believe, is 15 millimeters thick. This boat, if it was normal framed, would be a lot less than that. I would say 12, maybe 10 millimeters, and this is 15. That's really, really thick. So now you must be wondering, why would I choose a thicker plate if I can have internal structure, and in the end of the day, the boat is composed by the entire structural system together, and both boats can handle sailing offshore, both boats are safe, everything works pretty much the same. Not 100%. The truth is, a boat with a thicker plate means you can handle a lot more impact. But a boat's not meant for impact. Yeah, it's not meant for impact, but eventually it can happen. For example, if you run into a sea container, there is a much bigger chance you don't open a hole on your boat if you have a thick plate than if you have a really thin plate. If you drag anchor and you go to the rocks, there's a lot more chance you can actually not break the hull and not make water and be able to take the boat safely from the rocks. If you have a much thicker plate, it's going to last for a lot longer on the rocks than just a thin plate. I can show you an example of a Strongall boat that was built by Meta that went to the rocks, and they say that this boat was on the rocks for 5 different tide variations and didn't break the aluminum in any part. Just, of course, you get like some benting of aluminum, but no water made inside the boat. Another big advantage in my point of view is the speed of the build of the boat. Imagine the amount of welds you have on a framed boat, and now imagine the amount of welds that you have on a Strongall boat. It's so much less welds. So that means you can build much faster, therefore you can build cheaper. Another thing that we need to remember is that if you have thicker plates, that means you can actually have deep penetration welds. So that means you end up with a stronger weld and with a boat with less deformation. And also you need to remember that every time you weld aluminum, you are changing the properties of the aluminum because of the amount of heat that you put in the material. So that means if you have less welds, you change less the properties of the material and you end up with a stronger boat.
Another advantage is that as there is not much structure inside, you don't have much limitation for designing your furniture and your system. So I think this is a pretty cool advantage.
Because you have just a few frames, and that's all you have, like a structure, of course, where the mess is, but the rest is open. It's like one big open space that you can be really creative on the interior of the boat. By the way, have you seen that? That's Roberta. And that's the bulkhead. That is our watertight bulkhead on the entry of the main cabin of the boat. That's actually the plate of our boat. And it's the first time that we actually see from these angles. Massive. Our boat's going to be really, really wide. That's so cool.
I remember one disadvantage of the thicker hull.
Which one?
Cannot have a curved hull.
Yes.
But
yeah,
it's actually an advantage because if you have chines, the boat sits on the chine and it sails better.
So the reason why you cannot have a round hull when you build a Strongall boat is because you're working with really thick metal and it's really hard to bend that in 2 directions. So in a normal framed boat, usually you create the shape of the plates even before you weld to the framing system. So you have a kind of a press, like a machine with a roller that you can just run the plate and you can stretch until you create the form you want, the shape you want, and then you weld to the frame system. And that means also that you're creating a plastic deformation. A plastic deformation is when you deform a material, and when you stop applying force to the material, it won't go back to the normal dimension. It won't go back to the normal shape. That means you change the shape permanently of the material, and that also means you change the properties of the material when you deform. In the Strongall method of construction, we only work with plastic transformation, and plastic transformation means that as soon as you stop applying force or pressure to the material, the shape will go back to the original shape. So that's a big difference. One, you have a plastic deformation that you change the property of the material. The other one, you have an elastic transformation that you don't change the property of the material. And that's where the constraint comes from, because you are not allowed to bend the metal in two different directions, and that makes a little bit harder because you need to have a shine. Personally, I don't think that's a problem. I really like the look of having one shine, and also because when you go sailing and you heel the boat a little bit, you sit on two shines and it becomes a really stable boat. That's really good.
I hope you understood all this explanation.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to be clear, but I'm trying my best to do it short and make you understand how things work and how our boat is going to be built.
And that's it?
Yeah, we see you next week, hopefully with the first welds of the boat. Hopefully. Fingers crossed, everyone. Hopefully we're going to have enough time next week to do the first welds.
See you next week.